Picture yourself driving through town and passing shopping centers that once buzzed with life. Now they sit frozen in silence, rows of empty glass storefronts staring back like tombstones of a forgotten economy. This is the reality in 2025. More than 15,000 stores have gone dark across the United States, stripping over $4.2 billion from local communities. Banks have shuttered, grocery chains have vanished. The places where families shopped, worked, and gathered have transformed into quiet corridors of for-lease signs and unpaid invoices. Behind every closing steel gate, families lose paychecks, communities lose their identity, and small towns watch the soul of Main Street fade away. And it's not just rural America. Even powerhouse states like California and New York are being swallowed by a wave of retail bankruptcies. What we're witnessing isn't simply a downturn or a temporary slump. This is something deeper and far more alarming, a retail extinction event happening right in front of us. Number 10. Arizona. Once a retail powerhouse fueled by rapid population growth, Arizona's shopping scene is drying up almost as quickly as its desert reservoirs. By 2025, more than 350 major stores have shut down across the state, turning once lively plazas from Phoenix to Tucson into hollow strips of sun-baked concrete and dusty display windows. Iconic shopping hubs like Metro Center and Superstition Springs, once magnets for weekend crowds, now operate at barely 60% capacity, their vacancy rates nearly doubling since 2022. Even discount chains aren't surviving the storm. Big Lots, a staple for budget-conscious families, shuttered 28 locations, reporting a staggering 21% drop in sales for home goods and seasonal items. 7-Eleven closed more than 40 convenience and fuel stops, squeezed by rising labor costs, fuel theft, and shrinking margins. Meanwhile, Kirkland's Home pulled out of Arizona completely after revenue plunged to under $600 per square foot, a dramatic fall. From its $920 per square foot peak back in 2018, Arizona's retail troubles aren't happening in isolation. They're tied directly to household finances buckling under pressure. The average family here now holds $10,840 in credit card debt, a jump of 14% since 2023, while wages barely crept up 3%. Layer on top of that soaring housing costs, with median home prices topping $445,000 and rents still climbing in the double digits, and spending has come to a halt. Mall foot traffic statewide is down 19% based on Placer.ai reports. Even tech-driven retail couldn't survive. Amazon's bold grocery push fizzled fast. Its Chandler and Scottsdale Amazon Fresh stores were quietly shut down in early 2025, part of a nationwide retreat that wiped out over $500 million. Homegrown names are collapsing too. Fry's Electronics and Bookman's, once beloved by locals, have faded under the weight of e-commerce competition. The fallout is brutal. Arizona has lost over 18,000 retail jobs, a 7.8% drop in employment, and nearly 1 in 8 retail buildings now sits empty. The decline even hit public finances. Commercial tax revenue has fallen by roughly $140 million since 2020. Number 9. Washington. In 2025, the gloom hanging over Washington isn't limited to the weather. The state's retail economy has dimmed dramatically, weighed down by inflation, shifting consumer habits, and an exodus of major brands. More than 420 store chains shut their doors across Washington this year alone, leaving once busy streets in Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane eerily quiet, lined with empty windows and fading signage. Seattle, once celebrated as a tech-powered shopping haven, now finds itself at the center of the storm. Retail vacancy rates in the city have surged to over 15%, a shocking jump from just 6% in 2020. Even homegrown retail legends couldn't weather the downturn. Amazon Fresh, headquartered right in the state, shuttered 6 locations around the Puget Sound after its nationwide grocery push racked up an estimated $700 million in losses. Small businesses, the heartbeat of local communities, have struggled even more. Commercial rents in top Seattle districts now average $42 per square foot, while labor costs have jumped 18% since 2021. A modest 1,200 square foot shop now costs over $5,000 per month, all while consumer foot traffic has fallen 22% from pre-pandemic levels. Remote work has emptied the urban core. Downtown Seattle used to welcome around 300,000 office workers a day, but today, less than 40% of that crowd returns. The ripple effect has hammered public budgets. King County alone has lost more than $200 million in sales tax revenues since 2022. Meanwhile, everyday Washington residents are getting squeezed. Nearly 36% of household income now goes toward housing costs, and essentials like groceries and utilities climbed 15% in 2025, tripling wage growth. Number 8. Michigan. Michigan has weathered decades of industrial decline, but 2025 has delivered a new blow, a wave of retail failures crashing across the state. This year, more than 700 stores have gone dark statewide, a jump of 25% compared to 2023. Cities already fragile from manufacturing losses, Detroit, Flint, and Grand Rapids are once again taking the heaviest hit. Big-name bankruptcies have left scars. Rite Aid's collapse wiped out over 150 stores in Michigan, costing roughly 3,000 workers their jobs. Joann Fabrics, a beloved Midwest staple, closed 36 locations after reporting a staggering $230 million loss. And with Sears' hometown officially disappearing, another 400 jobs vanished. Altogether, Michigan has watched more than $1.1 billion in retail revenue evaporate in just 1 year. The aftermath is visible everywhere. Suburban shopping districts around Detroit now sit at over 17% vacancy, far above the national benchmark of 10%. Even with commercial rents sliding 12%, many small businesses still can't afford to stay open. Michigan families aren't faring much better. With a median income hovering near $64,000, daily essentials have become a burden. Food prices have jumped 14%, electricity bills climbed 9%, and Michigan drivers face the highest car insurance in the nation, averaging $3,141 annually. Shoppers have disappeared too. Foot traffic across downtown Detroit is down 28% compared to pre-pandemic levels, draining life and spending from the city center. The retail labor market has followed suit. What once employed 480,000 workers now supports fewer than 430,000, marking a 10% collapse in just 2 years. The consequences are painful and paradoxical. Residents need lower prices more than ever. But as stores shut down and competition fades, costs rise. In communities like Flint and Saginaw, retail deserts are spreading. Families drive 20 miles or more just to find everyday household goods or clothing. Number 7. Texas. Texas may be famous for surging populations, booming oil fields, and an image of unstoppable growth, but even the Lone Star State can't escape the retail collapse sweeping America. In 2025, more than 1,200 stores across Texas have shuttered, the most of any state in the South. Once busy retail corridors in Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio are now marked by dark storefronts and fading neon signs, with mall vacancy rates hitting 14.7%, almost double where they stood back in 2019. Even homegrown giants weren't spared. 7-Eleven, headquartered in Irving, shocked residents when it pulled the plug on over 250 locations, citing shrinking profit margins as gas climbed above $3.90 per gallon and organized theft jumped 19%. Big Lots closed 38 stores, while PNC Bank made the stunning decision to leave Texas altogether, shutting down 78 branches and wiping out more than 1,000 jobs in the process. Major retail landmarks like Houston's Galleria and North Park Center in Dallas still draw foot traffic, but behind the glitter are stress cracks. Commercial rents have dipped 12% year over year, yet many small tenants still can't stay afloat, defaulting at alarming rates. Why the sudden collapse in a state known for prosperity? Rising consumer strain. The average Texan household is now drowning under $11,900 in credit card debt, up sharply from $9,800 in 2022. Rent continues to balloon, climbing past $1,630 per month, and grocery bills have surged 13%, leaving families with little breathing room, let alone spending money for shopping trips. With wallets squeezed tight, retail jobs plummeted 6.5%, eliminating nearly 50,000 positions statewide. Dollar Tree shut down 57 Texas locations, blaming skyrocketing rents and theft that reportedly exceeded $15 million. Once bustling strip malls in places like Fort Worth and Corpus Christi are now half-vacant shells, while city governments brace for impact, losing roughly $280 million in retail-related tax revenue. But 2025 cracked that narrative. When a state of 30 million people with booming metros, corporate relocations, and surging housing developments can't keep its retail sector alive, it reveals a sobering truth: no economy is strong enough to outpace consumer exhaustion. Number 6. Florida. Florida may still look like paradise in postcards, but in 2025, the state's economy tells a very different story. Behind the beaches and palm-lined streets, a retail crisis is spreading faster than summer wildfire. This year alone, more than 900 stores have shut down across the Sunshine State, marking one of the sharpest retail declines Florida has seen in decades. Even the giants are stumbling. Walmart Express abruptly pulled out of 37 smaller Florida markets, leaving rural communities scrambling for alternatives. Kroger, which once bet big on the state's rapid growth, shut down its high-profile delivery hubs in the Tampa region after burning through nearly $120 million in just 2 years. And Walgreens wasn't spared either. The chain closed 68 stores statewide, citing theft and shrink losses that ballooned beyond $30 million. When the dust settled, Florida's retail workforce had shrunk dramatically. The state saw a 7.2% drop in retail employment, wiping out nearly 40,000 jobs in 12 months. Why such a brutal collapse? The numbers paint a harsh picture. The average household in Florida earns about $67,000 a year, but rising costs have eaten into every dollar. Housing and utilities have surged 22% since 2022. Groceries jumped another 14% this year, and in Miami, the average rent has exploded to around $2,700 a month. With so much money swallowed by basic living expenses, residents simply don't have anything left for shopping sprees. As wallets thinned, so did business revenues. Consumer spending plunged 8.6% statewide, wiping out roughly $4.1 billion from Florida's retail economy. And for a state that depends heavily on tourism, the hits just kept coming. Visitor numbers dropped 9%, squeezed by soaring global airfare and skyrocketing hurricane insurance costs that pushed many coastal hotels toward crisis mode. Popular shopping zones like Orlando's International Drive and Miami's Dolphin Mall saw foot traffic fall 20 to 25%. And even once dominant outlet malls, long considered recession-proof, are limping along at about 65% occupancy. Commercial rent in metro areas now averages $48 per square foot, and insurance premiums notoriously high in Florida surged another 40% in 2025. The result? Florida's commercial vacancy rate has climbed to 13.2%, the highest level the state has seen since the 2008 financial crash. Number 5. New Jersey. New Jersey once proudly called itself the mall capital of America. For decades, the state was synonymous with packed parking lots, sprawling shopping centers, and weekend trips to retail meccas. But in 2025, that proud title feels less like a badge of honor and more like a burden from another era. The Garden State is facing a retail meltdown, and the numbers are brutal. This year alone, over 620 stores across New Jersey shut their doors, wiping out everything from national chain retailers to neighborhood staples. Household names like Walgreens, Macy's, and Stop & Shop have all slashed locations. In total, the state's retail job market took an 8% hit, costing more than 22,000 workers their livelihoods. The pain is especially visible in the northern corridor areas like Paramus, Newark, and Jersey City, where once premium retail strips now look like ghost markets. One of the biggest blows was Macy's closing its landmark Paramus Park store, a retail institution for decades. Sales there had collapsed by 26%, prompting the chain to walk away. Meanwhile, Stop & Shop shuttered 23 stores, dragged down by $85 million in losses. Even banking didn't escape the fallout. TD Bank has already shut 17 branches, insisting customers are shifting to online banking faster than ever. Commercial rent now averages $52 per square foot, while energy expenses for larger retailers have jumped 19% since 2023. Throw in soaring insurance premiums, and skyrocketing theft losses across the state's retailers hit $170 million, and it's clear why many stores simply couldn't survive the pressure cooker. Consumers are struggling too. Yes, the median household income sits around $97,000, but don't let that number fool you. High wages in New Jersey are swallowed almost immediately by living costs. Property taxes alone average about $9,500 per year, making them the highest in the entire nation. Add groceries and gas up 15%, and families are slashing their budgets wherever they can. Even the crown jewel of New Jersey's retail identity, the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, is buckling under the strain. Once hyped as the future of experiential shopping, the mega complex has missed over $330 million in debt payments and is limping along at roughly 74% occupancy. If the biggest mall in the state and one of the largest in the country can't fill stores, imagine the reality for local strip malls. Many of them are far worse off, with statewide strip mall vacancies inching towards 16%, nearly double what they were before the pandemic. Number 4. Massachusetts. Massachusetts has always worn the reputation of being a hub for brains, biotech, and breakthrough ideas. But here's the part nobody expected. While innovation is soaring, the state's retail foundation is quietly crumbling beneath it. In 2025 alone, more than 180 stores across the Bay State have shut their doors, wiping out over 9,000 retail jobs and turning once bustling commercial districts from Boston to Worcester into eerily quiet stretches of empty windows and dusty space-available signs. One of the biggest blows came from Joann Fabrics, a longtime craft and hobby staple. After operating more than 30 locations across Massachusetts, the company walked away entirely. They pointed to a devastating 24% drop in sales and an 18% spike in supply costs, making the math impossible. Meanwhile, TD Bank shuttered 20 branches, and pharmacy giants CVS and Walgreens collectively cut 55 locations in and around Boston alone, a massive shift for a city known for dense retail access on every corner. As a result, retail occupancy across Massachusetts has sunk to 82%, the weakest level since the fallout of 2009. And it's no mystery why. Running a business in Massachusetts is expensive, brutally expensive. The state has the fourth highest electricity costs in the entire country, averaging around 28 cents per kilowatt hour. In the greater Boston region, commercial rents have blasted past $55 per square foot, and property taxes surged another 12% just this year. Many smaller stores, especially family-run shops, simply couldn't keep up and folded under the pressure. Even the paycheck numbers can be deceiving. Yes, the median household income sits near $93,500, which looks strong on paper. But sharpen your pencil, average rent for a one-bedroom in Boston now exceeds $3,100 per month. Add in student loan payments, soaring insurance costs, and rising grocery bills, and consumers have almost nothing left to shop with. Even the iconic shopping corridors that symbolize Massachusetts' upscale culture are struggling. Newbury Street, once practically packed shoulder to shoulder on weekends, is dealing with accelerated boutique turnover and persistent vacancies. And Natick Mall, a longtime crown jewel of suburban shopping, is sitting at a staggering 22% vacancy rate, a number that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. For a state that prides itself on progress, stability, and being ahead of the curve, 2025 feels unsettlingly familiar, like a slow replay of a recession scenario without the official recession label. Number 3. Illinois. Illinois is experiencing a retail crisis so severe it echoes the economic hollowing that followed its industrial decline. Entering 2025, the state has watched more than 1,150 stores shut down, one of the harshest retail wipeouts in the entire Midwest. From the fading glamour of Chicago's Magnificent Mile to the deserted corridors of malls in Peoria, the retail landscape across Illinois is coming apart at the seams. Discount chain Big Lots, once a lifeline for budget-conscious shoppers, shut 42 locations in Illinois alone, pointing to a steep 19% sales drop in lease renewals that jumped by 15%. And it didn't stop there. Bed Bath & Beyond vanished entirely after liquidation, erasing more than 1,200 jobs across the state. Meanwhile, PNC Bank pulled the plug on 60 branches, disproportionately abandoning lower-income neighborhoods where physical banking services are still essential. Perhaps the most symbolic sign of decline is Chicago's once prestigious Water Tower Place. Once a jewel of urban shopping, its vacancy rate has soared to 40%, transforming a destination mall into a struggling relic. Suburban centers aren't faring any better. Malls in Joliet, Rockford, and Springfield are sitting with 25% to 30% of their retail space empty, numbers that would have been unthinkable just a decade ago. Statewide, the employment impact is crushing. Retail jobs in Illinois have dropped by 9.1% since 2023, eliminating over 46,000 positions. Behind the collapse lies a brutal economic formula. Illinois carries the second highest commercial property taxes in the nation, with store owners paying an average of $10,500 per retail unit every year. On top of that, electricity and heating expenses soared 18% in 2025, while wages in the sector barely nudged up 2%. The median household income in Illinois hovers near $75,000, but inflation has chewed through every bit of spending power. Essentials alone are breaking budgets. The average household now spends $8,400 a year on groceries, a 21% jump in just 2 years. Number 2, New York. For generations, New York carried the title of the retail capital of the planet, a place where brands fought for a sliver of sidewalk and shoppers poured through every borough. But in 2025, that reputation is crumbling at a pace few thought possible. This year alone, more than 1,500 stores across the state have gone dark, and nearly 400 of those closures happened in New York City itself. From Manhattan to the Bronx, neighborhoods once buzzing with shoppers now stare back with quiet streets, dusty display windows, and rows of for-lease signs. Major chains are pulling out as fast as they once rushed in. CVS has shuttered 60 pharmacies, Party City collapsed through bankruptcy and walked away from 22 locations, and TJ Maxx slimmed down its New York metro presence by 18%. Even the high-end scene isn't safe. Saks Off Fifth abandoned its signature downtown store after rent shot beyond an eye-watering $1,200 per square foot, while sales fell 25%. That's luxury fleeing from the luxury capital of America. Vacancy numbers paint the same bleak picture. Manhattan's retail emptiness has climbed to 17.8%, up from 10% only a few years ago. Brooklyn's Fulton Mall, once a success story of urban retail revival, now sits barely 65% occupied. Statewide commercial vacancies have spiked 40% since 2020, leaving entire corridors hollowed out. And the math behind this collapse isn't just challenging, it's punishing. The typical New York household earns around $80,300 per year. But in New York City, the average rent has blasted past $4,200 every month. Groceries run 22% higher than the U.S. average, draining wallets before shoppers ever reach a checkout line. With confidence at its weakest level in 10 years, New Yorkers have slashed discretionary spending by more than 12% in 2025. Jobs have evaporated right alongside storefronts. In just 12 months, the retail sector lost over 53,000 positions. Even the legendary Fifth Avenue shopping corridor, once the crown jewel of retail worldwide, has shed nearly $1.1 billion in yearly revenue compared to pre-pandemic highs. Insurance premiums are climbing 35%, utility expenses are up 21%, and small business owners simply can't keep the lights on. Independent shops, the corner bakeries, fashion boutiques, toy stores, and specialty markets that give New York its soul are shutting down at 3 per day. Number 1. California. California, the powerhouse economy that once defined American shopping culture, has become the epicenter of the nation's retail breakdown. In 2025, the state experienced a seismic collapse, with more than 2,300 stores shutting their doors, the highest total of any state in the country. From the sun-beaten plazas of Los Angeles to the once glamorous storefronts around San Francisco's Union Square, retail life has thinned into a shell of what it used to be. The retreat hasn't been subtle. Walgreens has walked away from 178 stores, blaming escalating theft, razor-thin margins, and shifting shopping habits. Macy's pulled out of entire regions, including key Bay Area sites, wiping out 2,800 jobs practically overnight. Rite Aid, once one of California's largest pharmacy chains, collapsed under bankruptcy and shuttered 154 stores across the state. Even Walmart, often the last retailer standing in struggling markets, closed 22 locations, primarily in suburbs where foot traffic and profitability evaporated. And the consequences? Nothing short of devastating. California's retail workforce has shrunk 9.4% year over year, leaving over 110,000 workers without jobs. Los Angeles now reports retail vacancies above 15%, while Union Square in San Francisco, the crown jewel of West Coast shopping, sits at a stunning 27% empty, a number that would have been unimaginable just a few years ago. But these closures didn't happen in a vacuum. They're the result of a cost environment that has squeezed consumers and businesses past the breaking point. The typical California household earns about $91,500 a year, yet average rent has shot to $3,200 per month. Gasoline hovers around $5.40 a gallon, and grocery prices have climbed 18%. Utilities continue to push higher, up 11%, and taxes remain the steepest in the nation. When living costs outpace paychecks this dramatically, something has to give, and for millions of Californians, that something is retail spending. Even landmark properties are falling under the weight. Westfield San Francisco Center, once worth $1.2 billion, was handed back to lenders after occupancy plunged below 50%. In Los Angeles, the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Plaza faces foreclosure as tenants flee rising security and maintenance expenses.